Right, hello everyone. Well, we're back in the what I call the MD500, but having watched a few videos just recently, it might actually not be the correct name for it. But I'm going to keep calling it the MD500 until they change the name on the enhancement pack. I took the plunge, and a chap called Fergus had done a wonderful mod where we had the Avi tab anyway, but now when you touch the bottom, if you own a GTN750, which I actually didn't, but I'd sort of been thinking about it for a while because of the fact it will go into the Dream 4, and I think the 429, and navigation isn't really my thing, but it just looks so cool. So Fergus has integrated it into the display you see here, and if you run sort of 1.3, 1.4 sharpening or anything like that, it works very, very well. The program doesn't integrate into the controls of the MD, but it will give you a flight plan, and I'm only just tinkering on the surface of it at the moment, so you can sort of zoom in, move map around. So I've done one there from Shoreham to Gatwick, move it all around there. You also have the option of doing a pop-out window, so if you wanted to do what I'm going to call the Tesla version of this thing, you can have a pop-out window, and not quite square, completely ridiculous for most purposes, but I have to say, for somebody like me, just adds something else to the fun. You've also got the smaller version incorporated down the bottom there. I've got OVR running. I'm going to try this at 1.6. I'm getting 45 frames at the moment, so I'm hoping it's going to work. And this ridiculously stupid display in front of me, I'm hoping will eventually end us back up at Gatwick, but we will see. So there's a few things I'm not sure of, but let's give it a go. Let's take off, bit of left pedal, nose forward, left, and off we go. So if you were in the Dreamfall or one of the helicopters that actually incorporates this program into the controls of the helicopter, you can obviously set it to fly the route on its own, as it's supposed to. And if you're a plane flyer, I'm sure you're already fully aware of this program and what it can do. I had a disastrous purchase of this. I'd been looking at the website for so long, and I couldn't make my mind up whether to do it or not. It's not really for this type of helicopter. For me, where I like my low down flying, it probably any of those displays get in the way, but I just felt I needed to finally get into some form of navigation and everything, and I thought, well, it's $49. It's not overly cheap, but it is a quality product, and if I can get my head around it, I'm sure it will be well worth it in the end. So already, because I'm manually flying, I've already veered off that pink line, the route that I'd set myself. So I'll just go back on that pink line if I can get over onto it. Bit more over the down, so I didn't want to just do a direct route to the actual Gatwick airport. So I thought I'd set myself something up, which I did, and already you get, mind you can see it turning there, going back on. So it's not fully incorporated, but having now watched a few videos about this unit, if you're going to invest in one, you might as well get this one. And if you're, I'm going to say, flying a lot of aircraft or a mixture, it will probably be worth a great deal more to you than me, who just flies helicopters. But it does look just great, doesn't it? So we've moved off the flight plan I set up, which literally I didn't want to go into it because I was going backwards and forwards, and as usual trying to remember what was on the videos and so on. So I've got it set up. It really is one of those things that you go in the flight plan, you can tap in a number of airfields. I put in Gatwick direct, which it did, and then you can actually grab the bar and line and pull it around to it, so you can set your waypoints manually just by dragging and pulling it around, which I thought was great. Now, one of the things I have found, I was just looking here, and I don't know how this works. Just get my mouse VR controller, if I can hold it still enough. My helicopter is not staying in the centre of the map, which I'm used to it doing. I'm sure there's a setting that will actually do that. I was hoping it was going to be this one here. And if we look up, we try not to crash into that hill. But even so, we can see the route here that I decided to take going into Gatwick. Again, VR wise, works on the zoom. Really, really clever. Go back, and it zoomed us back into the helicopter. So I'm not going to go on about the ins and outs of the GTN750 because I'm still watching the videos and trying to learn exactly how it's going to work or play out for us. And of course, if I was doing a long flight, maybe I wouldn't be in this helicopter anyway, so getting used to it and learning it will be something for the future. So we're coming up to the first of the lines that I'd set as a waypoint, and then just over this little village here. And then we bank. Line ourselves up manually. So a nice sightseeing route to Gatwick, over some nice villages and that, and as you see there I'm banking manually just to pull it over the top. Now the other option obviously is not to just stick it I did this as a pop-out window in VR, which enabled me to do what I was doing. You could place it anywhere you want, down there. If you can use this version that is on the screen at the moment, you can probably, even from this distance, still see the line and the route that you intend taking. Now, I do apologise if you can hear my mad dog barking in the background. I wasn't sure. You might not actually. Now, the unit itself is doing some form of automatic scrolling in and out, which is quite interesting. That might be as you approach certain waypoints. So I just set it to go over this very pretty part of Kent. Keep on the line. I can see on the big one down there. Let's drop down, have a look at this reservoir. Saw a stutter then. Here in the UK it was about 30 something degrees yesterday, and I couldn't actually get a flight in. My computer, even with an enormous fan blowing on it, that was it. It was just cutting out all the time, so I didn't bother in the end. Today temperatures dropped drastically and it seems to be running reasonably smoothly, even though I've got a water cooler and everything else on my CPU and my graphics card. I've also got the side of it taken off and something like a 12 to 14 inch fan, one that plugs into the mains, that blows into it continually as well. So just trying to keep it as cool as you can. So there we are, we're still following the line. We've veered off very slightly to the right. I can manually go back. So this is very unusual for me, isn't it? We've got to do something. Let's drop down again. You know, flying from one place to another is over long distances isn't really what I enjoy doing. So thought we had a big stutter then, you might have seen, but seems to be okay now. Get back on that mauve line. Yep. And then head straight over this way. We're actually heading more in the direction of where I actually live, and then we'll do a left. Just to add a bit of excitement on the way, eh? Get back on track. Another little stutter then. And a bit more of a left. So we're looking for that pink line. get on track again. I like the fact the helicopter's sort of got that little line that sticks out that sort of gives you the general, well, where the direction you're flying in, and then once you get ready to cross that, we can then throw a bit more of a right. Start banking it over now, because I'd wanted to come into Gatwick just to annoy the pilots down the length of the runway from the right hand side. So this gets me back on track, you can see there. So $49 for a program that doesn't actually link into one of my favourite helicopters, but in VR it looks great, and you can have a good play around, pick your own route, and you manually follow the line. Well, let's just say we hope when I get to the end of this line it's where I want to be, and then probably over the next few weeks I'll get into it more, have it in the Dream 4, and I think Tom's 429 takes it as well, so it'd be great to get it in that. So a little bit more left, I'm still not quite on the line. A little bit more left, looking at that. Starting to get a few stutters, probably as the computer's heating up a bit. One of the I'm going to say choices I had to make was that I know the Huey's about to come out, and I'm not unlimited on finance, and I had to make the decision of whether to get this GTN or the Huey straight away when it comes out. So let's line up. There's Gatwick over there. I wasn't really paying enough attention. Coming in the route I normally drive in if ever I'm going from Gatwick anywhere on holiday, and it should end up flying down the centre of the runway. And alright, it's a manual exercise, but it was very easy to do, and whether you use a little tiny one or you pull up the pop-out window and you know, what I call the Tesla version, if you've ever been in one of these Tesla electric cars, the size of the screen is absolutely ridiculous, and when this is placed, sorry about my shaky hands, somewhere around about there, that's the sort of thing you get in a Tesla car. You know, it's a monstrous display, completely out of proportion, and not technically correct, but a great deal of fun. And I did get here. Funnily enough, if you take off from Shoreham and just fly north, you get here anyway. So adding in that little detour was just to see, for the very first time I've used the unit. Well, that's a fib actually. I used the unit yesterday on the Dream 4 one when it was really hot and the computer was crashing and everything, and I did actually get it to fly from Shoreham to Gatwick, and on the flight plan, and then was called down for dinner. So I thought, well, it seems to be okay on its own, I'll leave it going. And I went down for dinner, and when I eventually came back, the helicopter had crashed. But I had one of my moving map programs running underneath, and it had flown from Shoreham and had gone round Gatwick circling, no doubt until the fuel ran out, and then crashed. And so, although I'm saying, well, it's a nice display the way that came up, is it successful or isn't it successful? I had some success yesterday, even doing the manual follow the line version here. If I can get this down without too much of a bump. Or I'm going to call it the Tesla version. I just love things like gadgets and things like this, and I've watched the videos. This thing is capable of doing so much more, and if ever I get into planes or other helicopters that can accept it, it's there, I've got it. The downside is the Huey might have to wait a little bit longer when it does come out. So the MD500 got the full enhancement pack, GTN750, OVR running. Nick Bates has done a video this morning on this helicopter and what we've got, and it's a fascinating video. It goes into a little bit of the history because he's obviously flown them, and even as this is, and even if we don't touch it and just keep progressing with what we've got, it is one of my favourite helicopters. This has brought life back into X-Plane. It's great flying fast and low, and you wouldn't want to go on a very long trip in it, hundreds of miles, but you know, flying around in the orbit south, which is what I could afford at the time, it is wonderful. So it only leaves me to say thank you for watching the video. I do appreciate it, and you'll have to make your own mind up whether it's worth doing the update and getting the unit, or if you do get the unit, bringing in the incorporation into the 500 here. So as usual, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a good week. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, and I'll see you all next week.